We are training generations at a time people to just give and give and give until they burn the fuck out. Not good, not good. And this is especially true of people of color, marginalized genders, especially women or AFAB people who were always given like the caretaker roles. Hey, sunshine. Welcome to the latest episode of the Neurodivergent Creative. It's November now. I'm very excited about fall because it's still nice fall. It's not yet shitty, super cold fall. But that is on its way post haste. I'm just going to enjoy it while I got it, I guess. It's been kind of nice and the leaves are pretty and yada yada. I haven't had to put real shoes on yet. That day is coming soon though. So it's November and I have a lot of updates about like my business and ways to work with me. So I want to lead into this episode with a topic, and I do have an offer that aligns with this topic, but you can also make a lot of amazing changes in your life just by listening to this podcast for free. So I want to clarify that. I will be inviting you to come aboard a program if that program sounds delicious and supportive for you. But I would love to talk about people pleasing and the neurodivergent sort of trauma that is people pleasing. It's not always neurodivergent. It's not always a traumatic childhood, but people who have both of those boxes checked, like, yes, I had a traumatic childhood, and yes, I am neurodivergent. I have noticed a lot of people-pleasing tendencies within those groups. And what I mean by people-pleasing is when you prioritize everybody else besides you. The best way to explain it is to give you an example. So I work from home, full-time, self-employed. My partner works from home full-time. He is an employee at a company. So when there is like a midday errand or if someone knocks on the door, I go answer it because I am more available for that. But that's a false thing that I have taken onto myself because his job is not more important than mine. He just like has a boss who will notice, hey, why did you get up from your computer? Which that's shitty capitalist micromanaging, but that's not the topic of the day. The topic of the day is that I will stop doing something important that I'm working on that is necessary for me to be doing and go run errands in the middle of the day because he can't. And this is a holdover from this people-pleasing kind of codependent-ish mentality that a lot of us pleasure to have in class gifted kids picked up along the way. And it was a survival mechanism, especially in childhood. So this, in a childhood setting, looked like noticing that the dishes were dirty meant I need to go clean those right now. Otherwise, if mom sees them, she will get mad, which then makes the whole house unsafe for everybody in it. And that's really simplifying it. Like she wasn't going to hurt us physically, but she did hurt us emotionally. And the biggest thing that she used to hurt us emotionally was chores and cleanliness and shaming us for not cleaning to her standards. So I picked up this, honestly, a lot of trauma around cleanliness and around chores and around this assumption that if nobody else has done it, I should do it to keep myself and others safe. That's exhausting, especially when I live in a home with 4 neurodivergent people who work, right? 2 of us are disabled, like we're chronically ill and tired and the weather is changing and it's making our bodies hurt. And it has taken about 2 years of living together with my household of 4 adults to stop doing the chores before anybody else can get to them. It has taken me about this long because I assumed that if they weren't doing it, it meant they weren't going to, and I should take care of it. Or it meant that if I wanted it done a certain way or at a certain time, that was my responsibility. Turns out you can just ask. I'm still working on that one. But for example, people will put away like my Pyrex storage dishes in a way. I'm very particular about how I store them. I put the lids on them because then the lids don't get lost in the void of the cabinet. This is a very particular way that I put these dishes away. And I have had to ask for people to please put them away in that manner. And it took me a long time to not feel like the world's biggest bitch for asking for that particular thing that I need. But the alternative is letting them just go nuts and put the Pyrex in there all willy-nilly with the lids all willy-nilly, and then we can never find the lids, and then I feel like I don't belong here. Like it goes all the way there really, really fast, that I am not safe in this home because I cannot ask for what I need in this dynamic domestically. So that's an example of how my people pleasing and my childhood trauma around having to keep things clean and organized has come out. But this also shows up, especially for our like high masking autistics and ADHD folks, as like the sort of corporate burnout. Like you're a super, super really hardworking employee and you get everything done and you say yes to all the extra assignments and you agree with them to take on more responsibility to prove that you're ready for a promotion. Don't do that. That's free labor. Don't do that. You need to get paid for the extra work that you do. Stop signing up for free shit. But that's a people-pleasing mentality because you are trying to prove your value with work, with labor, with anticipating a need for somebody else. And guess who never gets that attention? You yourself, me, myself. People pleasers themselves. Because it's terrifying, because we have made our entire personality and our entire safety net around making things comfortable for everybody else. Oh no, I don't need to take a nap right now. I can definitely walk the dog instead. Let me take care of that for you. I don't need to read this book right now. Let me take care of that. The dishes are annoying you. I can hear you kind of sighing while you make dinner. Let me just put away the clean dishes in the dishwasher so that there's room for the dirty ones. You will constantly stop the things that you are doing or deny yourself things that you have planned in order to go make life easier for somebody else. Raise your hand if you do that. This people-pleasing thing, I'm getting way better at noticing when I do it. So this is also known as the Fawn Response, right? So we know fight or flight. When we are in danger, the biological brain action, we get this rush of adrenaline or epinephrine or whatever awesome cocktail of hormones is. And the body is like, okay, we're either going to run away. That's the flight response. Or I'm going to punch you in the face. That is the fight response. There are more than those, though. There's also freezing, which is maybe similar to running away, but you just can't, it's complete inaction. You are frozen and you cannot do anything to get out of this dangerous scenario. Or there's fawning. And fawning means you make yourself safe by throwing yourself into the role of helper, agreeer. This comes out a lot in like emotionally abusive or any level of abuse relationships. And you fawn to keep the abusive party from becoming dangerous. So me doing the dishes before my mom got home so that she would not be mad was actually a fawning response. That was me wanting to take care of her needs, cater to her needs in order to keep myself safe and prevent her from being angry with me, which would then result in some type of punishment. Super awesome. It's a real upper of an episode, right? So that's the basics on the Fawn Response. And I am sure I have like 9,000 blog posts about this as well. I'll try and look some up for you and put them in the show notes. But what I would like to really talk about is the effort and amount of work it takes to re-normalize just being a person in charge of yourself. So like I'm finally in a healthy, non-abusive relationship. I went from abusive relationship with my parents to abusive relationship with my first husband, right into abusive relationship with my second husband. And then I left him, did some slutty phase things where I was like, I'm not doing this. I'm not going to fall into another marriage with an asshole. And for the most part, I kept it light and casual, but there were a few people who were also, I ended up in more abusive dynamics. And the cool thing is that each time I end up in an abusive dynamic, whether this is a romantic or sexual relationship, I've had abusive dynamics in friendships, regardless, they're getting shorter. So like the longest I've ever been in a relationship with an abuser was 7 years with my second husband. And then after that, 6 months. 6 months with an abusive partner. And then after that, like one relationship was like really, really good until we hit a point where it stopped being good. And then I recognized that starting to be sort of toxic and getting a little into abusive territory within, I want to say 3 or 4 months. So I'm getting much quicker at noticing. The shortest I think I've done is like a 2-month friendship where we went from like, yeah, let's meet for coffee, let's be friends, to me being like, I actually like, no, I'm doing a lot of labor in order to be palatable for you, and I can't sustain this, and I must withdraw, because I fell back into that people-pleasing thing where I couldn't be my authentic self because I was too busy being the version that they needed or wanted me to be. That's where we start getting into trouble, especially when it comes to like figuring out what we even need, right? Because being neurodivergent is inherently traumatic in our current society. It's hard for us to exist because we have different needs. And when we're children and like we're in middle school and high school, even college, even jobs and careers, if we don't know that we're neurodivergent, if we don't know the types of accommodations that we need, and also on accommodations, we did an episode on accommodations a couple months ago, so we can put that back in the show notes if you want to refresh yourself on that one. But if we don't know what we need, we're comparing ourselves to everybody else and being like, well, that must be how to act. And then we follow a script. We're like, okay, I see workaholism in the media. That must be what jobs are like. You know, I had to learn to sort of people please and anticipate the needs of others in my childhood home. So that must be what a marriage is. And it's this really warped perception of how human partnership is supposed to work. And then we get hyper independent as a defense mechanism. So whereas, you know, when we're children, we need our parents, right? We need caregivers. There's a saying, it takes a village. That's because babies need stuff, support. We need to be fed. We need to be changed. We need to be taught how to exist. And we also need to play, and we need lots of sleep. And, you know, we need to learn things. Kids need a lot of stuff. And it's like a societal problem that parents aren't supported enough to provide all those needs and then still be able to give to themselves at the end of the day. We shame moms for having like one tiny speck of free time or self-care time. And we're like, oh, where's your kids? Why aren't you taking care of your kids? Meanwhile, we give a gold star to a parent who sees their kids once a year and like they barely send a card. And we're like, oh, look, dad put daughter's hair in a ponytail, parent of the year. And it's like, do you see that you are like draining full-time custodial parents who don't get a break? You are just draining them of their life force because we expect them to give and give and give and give and give to everyone else before themselves. Same thing with this people-pleasing mentality. We expect young people. I actually saw a reel today and people were talking about this. They were like, Gen Z kid finally understands the real world, right? And it's this girl, she's probably in her early 20s, and she's gotten her first full-time job after college. She has to commute. The commute is like excessive. It's full-time in the office, so it's not remote, work from home. And she's like crying. And she says, there's no time to go to the gym. There's no time to cook a meal. There's no time to do anything other than get up and go to work. And some of the comments were very supportive, and they were like, yeah, I can't even laugh. Like it was kind of being played for laughs. Like, oh, this kid is now in the real world. But a lot of the comments were saying like, yes, this is what it's like. And it's fucked up. It shouldn't be like this. We are training generations at a time people to just give and give and give until they burn the fuck out. Not good. Not good. And this is especially true of people of color, marginalized genders, especially women or AFAB people who were always given like the caretaker roles. And this is where my new offer comes in. I'm doing a 4-month intensive called Eldest Daughter Rehab, because the eldest daughter in a family, almost always, there's a syndrome named after this. It's called Eldest Daughter Syndrome. We almost always end up taking on a caretaker parent role for either the other children in the house or our parents themselves. And that's called parentification. And that's a whole thing that I'll probably end up writing some blogs about because I have a lot to say. So if you've been following me this whole episode where I'm just ranting about people pleasing and expecting people to take care of everybody, yeah, it's a fucking problem. I don't like it. And the way that I have found to just start unpacking all of it is to start normalizing asking for help. And it's terrifying. And here's another offer, which is that in the Neurodivergent Creative Pod, a free Facebook group, we're doing a 30-day Ask for Help challenge in November. So by the time this episode comes out, we have just started. There's no stakes. It's not like you have to do all 30 days to get your gold star. There's no gold stars. If you ask for help one time more than usual in a month, you have won the challenge. Like it's not like that. But what we're doing is every single day there's a post that's going to go up, and I'm going to encourage you to ask for help about something. And it can be really little. It can be like, hey, can you get me a glass of water? Or it can be something like asking your boss if you can work from home. Like anywhere, the asking for what you need, and then the normalization of the fact that that ask did not destroy you is how you're going to start to integrate the fact that it's safe to ask for help and you don't have to be hyper independent all the time. You do not have to be the only one who does things. You do not have to be the one who anticipates all of the needs. You do not have to be the one who takes action the first time somebody sees a need. Because that's another thing. I have like a very, very low threshold for mess because of my childhood upbringing around cleanliness. So the people that I live with, much more comfortable than I am, just sort of like existing in like a little bit of a cluttered state. And I make like my little neurodivergent piles, right? Like I kind of nest, and I'll end up with like some mail and some books. And then there's like stickers I bought that's in there. And then I go take my little pile to my office and I put everything away. So this is not to say that I am a perfectly clean person. I have a pile of notebooks to my right. I got Post-it notes to my left. Like there's a lot going on in here. But all that to say is that I notice like when the dishes need to be done much, much earlier than anybody else. I notice that laundry needs to be done much, much earlier than anybody else in the house. Like it's not to say anybody else in the world. I'm like, no, there's 4 of us and I'm slightly in the lead here. Asking for other people to clean up feels terrible. It feels terrible. I just want to normalize the fact that this asking for help is not going to be all sunshine and unicorns and rainbows the first 30 times you do it or more, right? I'm saying 30 because there's 30 days in November. We're going to do a 30-day challenge about it. But it's the normalizing of it. It's saying, hey, I could use some help with this. I got a terrible example. Still makes me mad at myself. I got home from the grocery store and one roommate had parked in the driveway. And that's where I normally parked. And I was upset because I had groceries and now like my spot is taken and I have to walk further with the groceries. So I parked my car on the street and then carried in all of the groceries from the street instead of closer to the house in the driveway. And then I was like, just really pissed off and really frustrated and being like, oh, I had to carry all these extra far and I'm just really unhappy about that and blah, blah, blah. And everybody was like, why didn't you just like ask him to move his car? And it hadn't even occurred to me to ask him to move his car. That felt rude. That felt like he was saying, fuck you and fuck your groceries and do whatever. But I thought it was too rude to be like, hey man, can you get out of the spot that we all talked about and decided was for me because I'm disabled, so it helps me walk less, which he totally would have done. Alas, I couldn't ask. So I had to make myself get in the habit of asking for the support I need, asking for the help I need, asking for things to be put away in a specific way, even though I wasn't the one putting them away. And I have had some epiphanies lately, one of which is the fact that most people don't have this problem with asking. They will ask because you're there, right? So somebody can just walk into a room, you're there, and they could say, hey, blah, blah, blah. When you get up, would you mind taking out the trash? I don't know, whatever it is. And I could be like, oh yeah, I can do that. That would be fine and well within where I was headed next, you know? Or if I say, like, I see somebody take out the garbage and they forget a garbage bag, I could go get that garbage bag and fix it. Or I could just wait and see if they're going to fix it and put it in when they're done taking out the garbage. Or if they come back in and totally forgot about it, I can say, hey, could you put a new bag in? And nobody's upset and nobody explodes and nobody like makes it a problem. And that's wild for me because it used to be a problem in the relationships that I was in. And so the fact that I can just be like, hey, literally anybody, can you send me the grocery money? Right? Can somebody go to the store and pick up this thing that we need? The fact that I can ask is evidence that I am safe. Evidence that I am healing this people-pleasing, hyper-independent trauma response. And it's possible, and it is available for you as well. And this is what we are focusing on in the Neurodivergent Creative Pod Facebook group. So I would love for you right now, if you are not driving a car, if you are somewhere where you can go to Facebook and type in Neurodivergent Creative Pod, find it and join it, I would like you to do that right now. Because we're going to practice this. We're going to practice asking for help. We're going to practice normalizing how it feels to ask for help because it's going to be uncomfortable. We're going to practice over and over and over and over again. And it's going to feel pointless some days. You're going to be like, why am I asking my partner to bring me a Coke? I can go get a Coke. It's not going to put me out to get a Coke. I know, but it's practice. It's practicing on little things that are safe enough for you to do so that you can learn and normalize that it's okay to ask for help on bigger and bigger and bigger things. So that's how we're going to defeat people pleasing in 2024. So for sure, absolutely free, if you have a Facebook account, come do this 30-day challenge with us in the Neurodivergent Creative Pod. It's a group on Facebook. I'll put it in the show notes. It's going to be awesome. And then additionally, if you would like information on Eldest Daughter Rehab, hit me up on Instagram. There's a link in my bio there for the program, or you can just DM me and I'm happy to talk about it. It's a rad program. It's going to be a 4-month intensive that starts in December. So it's going to take us through January, February, March. It's going to end like mid-April. And that is going to be focused on breaking down the programming in your brain that makes you do this eldest daughter, mom friend shit to your own detriment. Because sometimes it's wholesome and we love it, but sometimes you're really running on empty for yourself so that you can be there for everybody else. And we're going to stop doing that. And it's going to be awesome. Okay. This has been an episode. I love you so much. I hope that you drink some water today. Stay hydrated, stay awesome, wear some fluffy socks, and eat soup. See you later.